Humanity had been waiting for this day for centuries, and every screen on Earth was alive with light as billions of people watched the broadcast together. The first message from the Galactic Council, the rulers of thousands of worlds and millions of star systems, a shining throne of alien civilization that had ignored humanity until now. And as the signal appeared, hope filled every heart. People held their breath, expecting words of welcome, the promise of unity and friendship, a door into a larger galaxy that had seemed like a dream. But instead, what came was laughter. Not human laughter, but a chorus of strange voices filled with mockery. The alien speaker, a tall figure with silver skin and burning yellow eyes, leaned forward and spoke in a voice that carried across every translator on Earth and Mars and the moons of Jupiter. "You are not worthy. You are violent. You are unstable. You are too dangerous to join us." And with those words, the Galactic Council declared humanity rejected forever. At that moment, silence swept across the world. Billions of people stared at the screens, unable to believe what they had just heard. They had sent their best scientists, diplomats, and leaders to plead for entry. They had offered knowledge, technology, and peace treaties. But the galaxy did not want them. It was as if humanity's history of war and blood had already been judged, and no mercy was given. Anger rose first in whispers, then in shouts. Cities that had been celebrating turned into riots. Glass shattered in the streets. Fires rose into the night. People screamed and fought as the truth sank in. The universe had turned its back on them. Even the leaders were stunned. Presidents and prime ministers, generals and kings all sat. In silence, their faces pale. They had prepared speeches for acceptance, but none for rejection. And in the middle of that silence, one man watched quietly. Admiral Marcus Kane, an old soldier with scars across his face and eyes as cold as deep space. He had fought in wars when Earth still fought itself. He knew what violence was, and he knew what the galaxy had just done to his people. They had humiliated humanity in front of the stars. Kane did not rage, he did not cry. He only leaned forward and whispered words that no one around him could forget. "If they don't want us, we will build our own empire." The words spread like fire, first in military circles, then in governments, and then across the networks of Earth and Mars. The people who had felt shame began to feel something else. Anger turned into unity. The riots became chants. The broken windows became flags waving in the streets. Humanity had been rejected, but now a new idea rose. If they would not join the galaxy, then they would stand above it, deep inside the asteroid belt, in shipyards hidden for decades. Massive machines stirred awake for years. Engineers and scientists had worked in silence, preparing for this day, not to beg for acceptance, but to fight for survival. They had built ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships built with human fury, steel, and fire, while aliens relied on tradition and ceremony. Humans built for war. Every bolt, every cannon, every engine was designed to kill fast and without mercy. The Council had no idea humanity was already ready. Kane stood in the command deck of the secret yard as the first warship rose from its cradle. The ground shook as the engines roared. The ship's name burned across its black hull: Titans. Wrath, the largest and deadliest vessel humans had ever created. Kane watched the flames rise, and his eyes never blinked around him. Officers saluted, but he did not return it. His focus was only on the stars, where those silver-skinned counselors had laughed at his people. Soon they would see what humans were truly capable of. Soon they would see what rejection had created, and as the ship disappeared into the dark, Kane whispered again, not for the crowd, not for history, but for himself. "This is only the beginning, the warship Titans." Wrath drifted in the silence of space like a black predator waiting for its first kill. Its hull darker than night, its weapons alive with quiet energy, every bolt and cannon humming with power. Admiral Marcus Kane stood at the center of the command deck, his eyes fixed on the endless stars, his face calm but hard as steel around him. Officers moved with precision, each one knowing the truth. This was not just a ship, it was the symbol of a new destiny. Humanity had been humiliated, cast aside, mocked in front of billions, but that insult had awakened something dangerous, and now the galaxy would learn what it meant to reject the human race. While the Council believed Earth was broken, Kane had been preparing. For decades, his secret network of engineers, miners, and scientists had worked in silence across Mars, the moons, and the asteroid belt, constructing a fleet hidden from alien eyes, shipyards disguised as mining colonies, factories buried under the ice of Europa and Titan, entire cities working only for one purpose: to build weapons of vengeance and survival. These ships were not sleek or elegant like alien cruisers. They were brutal, sharp-edged giants forged for destruction. Every cannon was larger, every engine stronger, every reactor ready to unleash storms of plasma and fire. Humanity had never matched the galaxy in technology or beauty, but they had mastered something the others had forgotten: the will to fight, the will to endure. Kane understood this better than anyone, for he had seen humanity at its lowest. He had seen cities burned in old wars. He had seen men and women fight with nothing but sticks when all else failed, and he knew that if such a people were denied a place in the stars, they would carve one with fire, the first test of Titans. Wrath was not a battle but a journey across the system. The ship roared past Mars, its shadow falling over the red sands, and the colonists below looked up with awe. They cheered as the warship's engines lit the horizon. They cheered because for the first time they believed humanity was not crawling behind the galaxy, but standing ready to face it. Word spread across Earth as images of the great warship filled. Every screen, the riots stopped. The anger cooled and something stronger replaced it. Unity humans who had cursed their leaders days before now raised their fists in pride. Even the poorest citizens whispered one phrase the Council may have rejected: "Us, but we will rise together." The Terran Authority was born not as a government of nations, but as one voice, one rule, one command, and at its heart was Kane, who spoke little, but whose presence carried across every broadcast. He stood before the cameras, not in ceremonial robes, but in his battle uniform, scarred and unpolished. His voice steady as stone when he said, "The galaxy believes we are weak. They believe we will bow, but humanity bows to no one. We will not beg. We will not wait. We will not hide. We will build our empire, and we will show them who we are." Those words became more than a speech. They became the fire of a new age, and while civilians cheered and soldiers saluted, the factories of Earth thundered to life. Production lines moved without rest. Children painted pictures of warships in schools, and the anthem of the Authority spread in every city. Humanity was no longer asking for a place in the galaxy. They were taking it. But Kane knew pride alone could not win the stars. The fleet had to grow. The warships had to be tested, and the galaxy would not wait forever. For soon alien eyes would turn back to Earth, wondering if the strange human anger had burned out, or if it had become something worse Kane was ready for. That day, for hidden deep within the Authority's vaults, were designs for ships larger than Titans. Wrath ships that could shatter planets, ships that could fight entire fleets alone. As he walked through the decks of the warship, watching young officers train and pilots test their fighters, Kane felt a rare thing stirring in his chest. It was not hope and not joy, but a cold certainty. The Council thought they had closed a door, but they had opened a war, and when the first alien patrol dared cross into human space, they would meet the fire of Titan's wrath. They would learn what rejection had created, and they would not laugh again. The patrol entered human space without fear. 3 alien cruisers with silver hulls drifting across the void, their captains arrogant and careless. They had heard the news that the Galactic Council had rejected Earth, and to them humanity was nothing. More than a primitive nuisance unworthy of stars. They did not come in peace. They came to mock. Their orders were simple: show force, remind the humans of their place, crush any resistance, and laugh as Earth bowed once again. But this time Earth did not bow. Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of Titan's Wrath, his eyes cold as the alarms rang across the deck incoming vessels. 3 cruisers armed and hostile. The crew looked to him, waiting for the order. Kane did not hesitate. Lock weapons. Fire at will. The first battle of humanity among the stars began with a roar. Titan's wrath unleashed its fury. Plasma lances tore through the void, slamming into the nearest alien ship. The cruiser's shields flashed bright, then shattered as its hull exploded in a shower of fire. The aliens had never seen such brutality. Their ships were designed for intimidation, not survival. They were sleek, beautiful, crafted for ceremony, but not for war. Humans had built monsters, engines of destruction. Forged from centuries of pain and rage, the second cruiser fired back beams of light crashing against Titan's wrath, but the ship barely flinched. Its armor drank the hits like rain against steel. Kane's voice was calm, steady. Shift power to forward. Cannons, finish them! The crew obeyed with precision, and another storm of fire ripped the alien ship apart. The last cruiser hesitated. Its captain, realizing too late that this was no weak, primitive fleet, but something terrifying, something born from rejection as it turned to flee. Kane gave no mercy. Target engines, destroy them. In one final blast, the third cruiser cracked open its wreckage, spinning into the dark silence of space. And then there was nothing, only drifting debris glowing in the cold light of distant suns. The bridge of Titan's wrath was silent for a long moment. The crew staring at the screens, unable to breathe. They had won humanity, had won their first space battle against an alien force. Kane's voice broke the silence. Record everything. Send it to Earth and Mars. Let every human see what we are capable of. The footage spread like fire across the solar system. People filled the streets again. But this time, not with anger, with pride, with shouts of victory. Every screen replayed the destruction of the alien patrol again and again. Children painted the warships in bright colors. Old men wept as they whispered, "Finally, finally, we are not weak." The Terran authority grew stronger with every cheer, and Kane knew this was only the beginning, because word of this battle would not stop at Earth. The galaxy would hear of it too, and they would not ignore it. The council's chambers shook with outrage. Alien leaders screamed across the halls demanding answers. How could a species they had mocked and rejected annihilate a patrol so quickly? How could a primitive world defy the unity of 1,000 civilizations? Whispers spread through the crowd. Humanity is dangerous. Humanity is rising. And soon the declaration was made across every channel in every corner of the stars. Humanity is a threat to the galaxy. All species must unite against them. Fleets must gather. Earth must be crushed before their fire spreads. Kane watched the broadcast from his command deck. His jaw set, his hands behind his back. He had expected this rejection had turned into war, and war would become empire. He turned to his officers and spoke the words that set the course of history the galaxy has chosen. "We will not run. We will not hide. We will fight, and we will take what is ours." The crew answered with one voice, their shouts shaking the deck of Titans. Wrath humanity had taken its first step into galactic war, and there would be no turning back. The galaxy gathered its fleets. Faster than anyone believed possible across 1,000 worlds, ships rose into the skies, vast armadas of alien races united under one command, each species sworn to crush the humans before their rebellion spread. Their ships filled the stars, shining like silver oceans ready to drown a single world Earth. The broadcasts reached every corner of human space. Alien leaders called humanity a virus, a sickness that must be erased. They promised swift victory and endless punishment. They laughed that human fire would burn only once before being extinguished. But while the galaxy prepared in arrogance, humanity prepared in silence. Admiral Marcus Kane did not waste time. He sent the call across Earth, Mars, and the colonies. Every factory worked. Without rest, every dockyard thundered with the birth of warships. Humanity did not build for beauty or ceremony. They built for survival. Their ships rose like iron beasts, darker than space, armed with cannons that roared like storm soldiers trained, until their hands bled. Pilots drilled until they could fly blind. Civilians gave everything they had for the cause. Children collected scraps, old men forged, steel women welded the frames of ships together. Every soul on Earth and beyond lived for one purpose: to stand against the galaxy. Kane watched as the fleet gathered around Saturn, black warships circling its rings like predators waiting for prey. The people called them the Iron Fleet. The aliens called them abominations. Both names were true. When the first alien armada entered human space, it stretched across the stars, thousands of ships in formation, banners of countless races. Shining proud, Kane stood on the command deck of Titan's Wrath, his eyes steady, his voice calm. Open fire. The battle exploded, the void lit with storms. Plasma tore across darkness. Missiles streaked like burning comets. Shields shattered, ships cracked open. Entire fleets collided in chaos. The galaxy fought with tradition, slow and predictable formations. Layered shields, endless ceremony. But humanity fought like wolves, striking fast, tearing at weak points, retreating only to strike again. Their tactics were not beautiful. They were brutal, but they worked. Alien. Captains screamed in confusion as their fleets broke apart under human fury. Entire squadrons of warships fell to smaller, faster Terran vessels, one after another. Worlds across the galaxy watched in horror as broadcasts of the battles reached them. The humans were not begging for mercy. They were not crawling in defeat. They were winning. Kane captured the first alien world after 3 days of endless war. The planet burned with smoke. Its towers broken, its skies filled with black ships, when the Terran banners rose above the capital. Every broadcast carried the image to Earth and Mars. Humanity wept, not in sorrow but in triumph. The planet was renamed New Terra, and Kane spoke to the universe. His words simple: "We asked for a place among you. You gave us rejection, now we take our own. This is the beginning of our empire." His voice shook the stars. Every alien council chamber trembled with fear. But even in victory, whispers began to spread. Strange signals were being detected in deep space. Entire fleets, both human and alien, had vanished without a trace. Kane listened to the reports, his expression unreadable. Some said it was a weapon. Others said it was an ancient enemy forgotten by time. The galaxy that had once mocked humanity now whispered in dread that something worse was waking, something older than the Council, something that might not care about human or alien, only about conquest. Kane stood in silence as Titan's Wrath drifted above New Terra, the people below chanting his name, the fleet burning with pride. But in the shadows of deep space, signals continued to grow stronger. The real war, he knew, was only beginning. The celebration on New Terra echoed across every human colony. People danced in the broken streets of the conquered world, voices rising with pride, and fire banners of the Terran authority hung from towers once ruled by aliens. Yet even as the cheers thundered, Admiral Marcus Kane stood at the window of Titan's Wrath, his gaze not on the crowds below, but on the endless dark of space. Reports arrived one after another. Fleets missing, entire convoys vanished. No wreckage, no distress calls, only silence. At first, Kane thought it was cowardice. Alien ships fleeing before human fury, but the patterns were too precise, too complete. And then the signals came, low whispers from the deep black transmissions, older than the Council itself. The codes carried symbols no one recognized until ancient archives on Earth were searched, and one truth emerged. It was not the first time a power had risen in the galaxy. Long before the Council, long before human history, a species had ruled the stars. A species so old, their name was carved only in myth. The Elythion. They had vanished, leaving only ruins across forgotten worlds. But now their signal pulsed again. Kane listened to the message played by the machines. a voice cold and timeless. "You are not welcome. These stars belong to us." It was not spoken to humanity alone. It was spoken to every one alien council. Chambers erupted in terror fleets that had once united against Earth, now panicked, realizing that something worse than humans had returned. Kane called his officers together in the war room. The map of the galaxy glowed with red points, entire sectors darkened by vanished fleets. He stood silent for a long time, then spoke. "The galaxy is distracted. They fear this new enemy. They look to us, waiting to see if we will fall. But we are not the prey here. We are the hunters." His officers nodded, but fear flickered in their eyes, for the Elythian were not like the Council. Their ships were not for show. They were living titans, vessels grown from ancient matter moving like predators through the void. Their weapons were not cannons, but storms that bent space, their power unmatched by anything humans or aliens had built. And yet Kane's voice did not waver. "We face a choice. We can hide behind the Council, beg for peace. Or we can seize this moment. The galaxy is broken. We can rise while they tremble. We can turn even this ancient enemy into the fire that forges our empire." His words struck deep across Earth and Mars. The people heard his broadcasts. They did not scream in fear. They tightened their fists. They whispered, "If Kane will fight, then so will we." The factories roared louder. New warships rose every hour. Soldiers swore oaths with blood. Entire colonies emptied their vaults, sending resources to the Authority. Humanity was not preparing to hide. They were preparing to strike. Kane's mind, however, was sharper than his words. He studied every detail of the Elythian attacks. He saw patterns where others saw chaos, and he realized the ancient enemy was not striking at random. They were testing, waiting, measuring the strength of both human and alien fleets. He knew the final storm was coming. The question was simple: who would stand when it arrived on the bridge of Titan's wrath? He looked out into the stars and whispered to himself, "If we win this, the galaxy will never deny us again. We will not only survive, we will rule." And as the ancient signals grew stronger, every officer, every soldier, every child of Earth knew the next war would decide not just humanity's future, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The sky above New Terra darkened as the Elythian came. Their ships unlike anything seen before. Vast and living things, their hulls glowing with veins of light, their shapes shifting like shadows in water. They did not arrive with diplomacy or warning. They descended in silence, filling the stars with a storm of ancient power. Entire fleets crumbled before their approach, both alien and human vessels vanished in fire. Kane stood on the bridge of Titan's wrath, his face carved in stone as alarms screamed. The crew looked to him, their voices tight with fear, but his command was steady. "All ships engage, hold the line." The human fleet surged forward. Black warships streaking across the void, their cannons blazing storms of plasma and iron. The Elythian answered with light that tore through spaceships, vanished in moments. Men and women screamed as their hulls bent and shattered. Yet still the humans fought their tactics, savage, their formations wild. Where aliens fought with fear, humanity fought with fury. Kane led from the front, his voice echoing across every channel of the Authority. "No retreat, no surrender. This is our empire. This is our right. Fight until the stars burn." His words lit fire in every heart. Even as losses mounted, human ships dove into impossible battles, ramming ancient vessels, tearing open their glowing hulls with brutal sacrifice. Every death slowed the Elythian. Every act of defiance proving that humanity would not break. But the Elythian were endless, and for a moment it seemed the dark would win until Kane made his choice. He turned to his officers, his eyes sharp as steel, bring Titan's wrath to the core. His crew froze, knowing what it meant. The heart of the Elythian fleet glowed like a sun. their throne world pulsing with power to enter its gravity, was death. Kane's voice was final. If their empire was built on fear, then we will tear out its heart. Full power ahead. Titan's wrath roared into the storm. Alien weapons ripped across its hull, fire bled through its decks, but the ship endured every cannon firing, every missile unleashed. Kane stood firm as the enemy closed around him in his final transmission to the fleet. He spoke not as an admiral, but as the voice of humanity. Remember this day. Remember what it means to be human. We were rejected. We were mocked. But now the stars themselves will bow. The ship plunged into the Elythion throne, whirled its reactors, overloading a sun igniting within steel, light brighter than creation spread across the void. The throne world shattered, collapsing in fire. The ancient fleet howled and broke their empire, burning to ash in the silence that followed. The galaxy trembled. The Elythion were gone, their power destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive and savage across the stars. Both enemies and allies watched in silence as the smoke cleared, only fragments of Titan's wrath drifting. In the void, no one knew if Kane had survived, but his name became legend. Earth rose not as a beggar, but as a ruler. The Terran authority spread across conquered worlds, banners raised on every horizon. The council that once laughed now bowed fleets. That once threatened now served humanity was no longer asking for a place in the galaxy. They had taken it by blood and fire, and in every home on Earth, every colony and every station. One phrase was spoken with pride and with fear. The galaxy once said we did not belong, now it belongs to us.